Hello students, welcome once again to the tutoring class, and today I'll be taking class 8 English. So the name of the lesson is the tsunami. Okay, if it'll be good if you can take out your textbooks and as we are listening to the explanation, if you can follow your textbook, it'll be very good. So the tsunami is a prose section of the second chapter. It's in page number 24. If you can take out your textbooks on page number 24. Yeah. So let us start with the lesson. Students, before we start the lesson, what is a tsunami? You all know what is an earthquake, right? When the earthquake comes, then the earth shakes and there's lots of destruction, loss of lives and properties, isn't it? So basically, a tsunami is an underwater earthquake, okay? So inside the ocean, deep inside the ocean floors, when the tectonic plates of the earth they move, there is a certain current that is released. So that is how the tsunami occurs, okay? So this lesson is divided into 3 parts. The first part, it talks about some people here. As we go on to the lesson, you'll understand more. And the second part talks about a girl called Tillie Smith. Right, and then the third part here, it talks about the animals and the birds, right? So this incident, the tsunami, it occurred 15 years back. Now it's the year 2020, right? So when you go back 15 years, it'll be 2004. So on 26 December 2004, a large tsunami happened on the southeastern part of Asia. So many countries were affected, even India was affected, and countries like Thailand, Japan, and all those countries were affected, okay? So students, if you go into your textbook, page number 24, there is a certain map given in the textbook, right? So that is the map of Andaman and Nicobar Islands. And when you look into the map of India, the southern portion is a bit, V-shaped like this, right? So in the middle of the ocean, you can see some small dots, right? So that is the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Okay. So when you see the small dots, all those are small islands in the Indian Ocean. Okay. So this incident, the first part, it happened in the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Right, so let's go into the textbook, page number 25. When you go into the textbook, the first incident talks about a man called Ignatius here. Ignatius was a man, and it is said that he used to work in a cooperative society. Okay, so on 26 December 2004, let's write the date also here. I'll just write it here. 26 December 2004. So this morning, when Ignatius woke up at around 6 in the morning, his wife suddenly woke him up, okay, and she was saying that an earthquake was coming. So they were all scared, and the first thing that Ignatius did was they had a television in the house. So he took the television and put it on the floor, because see, television is a very heavy thing, isn't it? So when the earthquake comes and shakes the house, it'll fall and then it might harm people also, right? So what he did was a very wise thing. He took out the television and put it on the floor, and later their family, they rushed outside, okay? They rushed outside to find a safe place for themselves, right? And then, I want you to listen properly. As they were going outside, Ignatius and his wife were separated, okay? They had 5 children. So Ignatius was holding 3 children and the wife was holding 2 children. And then along with the wife's father and brother were also there. So basically, the father and brother will be the children's grandfather and uncle, isn't it? So along with the uncle and grandfather and 2 children, they were, as the wave were coming, they were rushing to get outside, but they couldn't find a safer place. And then they they were suddenly swept away by the water, the strong waves, okay? Because remember, when the tsunami occurs, strong waves from the ocean comes to the land, right, to the coastal areas. So they were suddenly swept away, and in the split of a second, only Ignatius and his 3 children were there. That means in the split of a second, one whole family was separated. Okay, so that is the first incident that happened. And then the second incident happened with a man called Sanjeev. So he was also a policeman. He was also working as a policeman in the Nicobar Islands in a place called Kachal. Okay, so he was a policeman, and the morning that the tsunami came, they were also very panicked and stressed out, and they were scared also. So what Sanjeev did was, he took out his wife and small baby daughter, and then they were running to a safer place. And as they were running, Sanjeev could hear somebody screaming for help. Okay, so that somebody was John's wife. So now John was the cook in the guest house. Okay, so his wife was all alone and screaming for help. So Sanjeev was feeling so pity for her that he, kept his wife and daughter somewhere, and then he rushed to help the wife, okay, the wife of the neighbor. And then when he was going back to help, both of them were again swept away by the large waves. So in Sanjeev's family also, only the wife and the baby daughter remained, and Sanjeev's life was lost in the tsunami. Okay, and then the third incident happened with a 13-year-old girl named Meghna. If you can turn to your page number 26, starting from the second paragraph, 13-year-old Meghna, along with her parents and 77 other people. So Meghna's family and 77 other people, they were, washed away in the water. And, as they were floating in the water, they saw a small wooden door floating in the water. And then Meghna climbed there, and she was waiting for somebody to rescue her. And it is said that 11 times she saw helicopters coming, but she was screaming for help, but the helicopters couldn't hear her. And then she was there floating in the water. And then after, remaining there for around some time, she was unknowingly washed ashore. Washed ashore means washed away to the beach. Okay, so there she just collapsed, and she was very in a state of distress and shock, because she was the only one who was safe, and all those other people along with her family members were washed away in the water. So some people came and rescued her. Okay, so even in Meghna's family, she was the only one who survived, right? And now let's go to another girl called Almas Javed. So Almas Javed was a girl who lived with her family, and then she was a 10-year-old girl who lived in Port Blair. Okay, when you go to page number 26, students, if you go to page 26, you can see the map, and Port Blair is the capital of Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Okay, so there she studied in a school called Carmel Convent in Port Blair, and there in Port Blair, her father also owned a petrol pump. Okay, and so their family were living there, and they went to another place, her mother's parents' place. They went there to spend Christmas. Okay, so they went there because the tsunami occurred in 26 December, right? So this is basically the Christmas time, right? So they were there in another place, and when the tsunami came, they were also very panicked and frightened, and the whole family came out of the house to find a safer place. Okay, as they were running, the grandfather was hit by something, and the grandfather fell down. So Alma's father, he went to rescue the grandfather, but as he returned to rescue the grandfather, again they were swept away with the water. So very unlucky that this family was also half of the family died. Again, Almas Javed's story doesn't end here, okay, students. As you know, the father and the grandfather was swept away. Again, they were running, and then the aunties and the mother, they were clinging to a coconut tree. Because see, when the tsunami occurs, strong winds will also blow, right? And then the waves is also coming, and then people are panicking. So the mother and the aunties, they were holding on to a coconut tree, and then they were calling Alma to come and hold on to the coconut tree. But in the tsunami, if you have watched some documentaries and all, even the trees and very large buildings are swept away by the water, right? That is the current, such is the strong current of the water. So as they were clinging to the coconut tree, even the tree was washed away. So at the end, only she was the one who was there, okay? And then the waves came, and Alma was also floating in the water. She saw a wooden plank and she tried to climb up there. And then as she was waiting in the water, she fainted, okay? And it is said that she woke up in a hospital in Carmota after some few days. And then when she woke up in the hospital, she was all alone, because remember, she has lost her parents, her grandparents, her aunties, and her mother, right? So after waking up from the hospital, and she was given some treatment, after that she was brought back to her native place, that is Port Blair. But see, it is very ironic, isn't it? Before moving out from Port Blair, they were a complete family, right? But after, you know, the incident, the tsunami came and all, she came back all alone, isn't it? So this is very heartbreaking. These are the 4 stories of the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, right? So in these stories, we can see loss of lives and properties, and then even families getting separated. And remember, this Meghna and Almas Javed, they are just small children. One is 10-year-old and another one is 13 years old. So you can imagine, if your parents died and if you're all alone, struck by a disaster, then you'll be very scared, definitely, right? So these are the stories from Andaman and Nicobar Islands, right? And for the second part, we will look into a story of a British girl called Tillie Smith. So basically, we can understand that in this second part, she is the heroine of the story, okay? So Tillie Smith was a 10-year-old British girl, okay? So when the tsunami occurred in 26 December 2004, Tillie Smith and her younger sister, who was 7 years old, this girl, Tillie, was 10, and then her sister was 7, and then along with her parents, Penny and Colin, they went to Thailand. Thailand is another country nearby India, isn't it? So they went to Thailand, and Thailand is very famous for its beaches, and tourists come there to, you know, enjoy and have fun, right? So they went to an island called the Phuket Islands beach. So they went there to this beach, and they were, you know, having a good time because they decided to spend Christmas there. And as they were, you know, the morning of 26 December, news was already being heard, and, you know, the television channels were giving news that a great tsunami, a great sea tidal waves, underwater earthquake was coming. So it was instructed that people who are there in the beaches should move to a safer place, okay? So this family, they were also scared, and, you know, it is said that Penny, the mother, Penny is the mother of Tillie, okay? So Tillie first said that, you know, when the tsunamis came and the waves were coming, Tillie suddenly became very hysterical. If you look into the meaning of hysterical, it's even given in your textbook. It means suddenly to become very restless and anxious and scared, because, you know, she knew what a tsunami was, okay? So initially, it was said that the parents also didn't know what is a tsunami, okay? But thanks to her geography class 2 weeks back in England, Tillie could understand what a tsunami was. So basically 2 weeks back in the geography class, the geography teacher had shown them a video of a tsunami that occurred in the Hawaiian Islands. Okay, so A tsunami occurred in the Hawaiian Islands in the year 1946. So see, this is 2004. This incident was occurred, but way back in 1946, another great tsunami occurred in the Hawaiian Islands. So now, Hawaiian Islands is another archipelago in the Pacific Ocean. Okay, so in the tsunami, the waves are coming, many lives were lost and all those. And then the teacher at the end of the video said that, whenever a tsunami comes, we should move to a safer place, a place that is higher from the sea level. So those were the instructions given by the geography teacher to Tillie and her classmates. Okay, so she suddenly remembered that one, and people who were there in the beaches, she was screaming and telling everyone to run and move to a safer side. So very luckily for them, the hotel that they were staying was nearby. It was a very tall building. So what the group of tourists and Tillie's family did was they moved to that hotel on the third story of the hotel building. Okay, so as they were waiting there, remember the tsunami is very strong, right? It sweeps away even the houses and the big trees also. But very lucky for them, the tsunamis came, the waves came, but the building that they were staying could overcome 3 very big tsunami waves. Okay, so when I say three very big tsunami waves, remember that tsunamis can last for days also, and for the whole day also, because the waves are very big, isn't it? And every now and then currents are being developed underwater, right? So the building would really face the tsunami, and the building didn't collapse. Okay, so that is how Tillie's family and many other tourists were saved. Okay, and students, when you go to page number 27 in your lesson, in page number 27, the first part for this Tillie Smith story, in the first paragraph, it is said that Tillie, after this incident, got many rewards for her act of bravery and smartness. Okay, but one thing that the parents did was, whenever this girl Tillie was called for interview, they didn't allow Tillie to go for interviews and speak about the incident. Okay, so at the end of the first paragraph, it is said, why do you think they took that decision? So why did Penny and Collins, the parents, took the decision to not let Tillie be interviewed by other people? Why is that? Because I think it was very wise for them as parents, because see, if they take the interview, then Tillie has to start describing about the incident, right? So it will be very traumatizing for her, and it will be very sad for her, isn't it? So that is why they avoided doing interviews. Okay, so we can understand that Tillie did a very smart thing, and she saved not only her family but other people also, right? And one thing that came very handy for Tillie was her geography lesson, isn't it? So from this incident, we can understand that whatever that you learn in the school, it'll be very good, and it'll be very smart of you if you can put it in your real life situations, right? Now let's go into the third part of the lesson. The third part of the lesson is in page number 29. I want you to look into your textbooks on page number 29. In the first paragraph, look carefully at the picture of the boy and his dog. So here on the right hand side, they've given a picture in the textbook, isn't it? So if you look into the picture and try to describe the things that you see, using just words and phrases, either the teacher or one of the students can write down the words and phrases on the blackboard. So for the first one, they've given calm, blue sea, and ruined huts, isn't it? If you look into the picture carefully, we can see a small boy sitting on a furniture, isn't it? And then the water is also floating, and we can also see that the small boy is holding on to a dog. So maybe we can understand that it must be his pet animal at home, right? And maybe the small boy is sad because he must have lost his parents in the water, in the waves, in the tsunami, right? So this picture is talking about so many things, and from this picture we can get so many ideas. Okay, so when we look into the third part of this lesson, we can understand about how the birds and animals reacted to the tsunami. Okay, so experts and old people, they were of the opinion that whenever any danger or natural disaster occurs, natural disaster means floods, earthquakes, all those are natural disasters, isn't it? So whenever something bad is going to happen, it is said that animals can sense it. Okay, so their sixth sense is very strong, it seems. So see, when I say sixth sense, we all have our five sense organs, isn't it? They are the eyes, ear, nose, tongue and skin, right? So when I say sixth sense, it means that the mind is saying something, the mind is trying to speak something, and whenever we act on the reaction of that mind, that thing happens. Okay, so that sixth sense of the animal is, it seems, very powerful, and they can hear the small vibrations that occur inside the earth. And then it is also said that animals can hear even the tiniest voice also. So that is why experts were of the opinion when the tsunami occurred that birds and animals, they can sense what nature is trying to tell them. Okay, so when we look into different incidences from the textbook, it is said that in the tsunami of 2004, that 26 December 2004, it is said that 150,000 people lost their lives. Okay, so students, 150,000 is a lot of people, isn't it? Many houses were separated, families were separated. We could understand from the stories also. And then many lives were lost and properties also. So 150,000 people's lives were lost, but it was said that in the tsunami, only 2 water buffaloes died in one national park, that is the Yala National Park in Sri Lanka. Now, the Sri Lanka is in the lower part of the Indian Ocean, isn't it? Right next to India, right? So Sri Lanka is also a small island, right? So when the tsunami came, the country also suffered great losses. Okay, so in Yala National Park, it is said that it is home to a variety of animals like elephants, leopards, and 130 species of birds. Okay, so when the tsunami came, it is said that the elephants, 3 of the elephants, they were making very loud noises, and they were running to a safer side of the national park. Remember, when we say national park, it is a very large area, a kind of forest, right? So the forest will have lower regions also and higher upper regions also, right? So the elephants, they were rushing there, and then the animals were also making very weird sounds. Okay, and then in the national park, it seems many people's lives were also lost, but only 2 water buffaloes died, it seems, in the whole national park. Okay, so from that, the zoo, the national people who were working there in the national park, they could sense that maybe animals can really sense. And then if you look at another incident on page number 30 of your textbook, here, it talks about a Sri Lankan gentleman who lived at Gala. So Gala is a place in Sri Lanka, and this place is near the ocean. Okay, so this gentleman, it was a habit for him to take out his dogs for early morning walks. Okay, so he had 2 dogs, and what they did every day as a routine was they'd go for morning walk. But that morning on 26 December 2004, it seems the dogs were really not willing to go out of the house, and they were the dogs, they looked very scared. So that day the gentleman and the 2 dogs didn't go for a walk. Okay, so after the incident occurred, the gentleman was telling reporters that, if his dogs had not given any sign, then they would have gone for the walk, isn't it? And their lives would have been lost, right? But that day, because of his 2 dogs, his life was saved. That is what he told reporters at the end of the incident. Okay. And so, from the 3 parts of the lesson, this lesson, talks about different incidents from different places, right? One talks about the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Another one talks about a girl who stayed in Thailand, right? And another one talks about the different animals and how they reacted to the tsunami, right? So from all this, we can understand that the tsunami is a very destructive natural force, right? We cannot stop it. And in the tsunami, many people's lives were lost. And then from the second part, we also understand that, whatever instructions, whatever knowledge is being given in the classroom, it is good. It will be good for you if you can apply it in your real lives, right? And then from the third part, we can understand about the nature of birds and animals, right? So that is all for today, and it'll be good if you can, listen to this explanation. After that, if you can go back to your textbooks. So students, if you can go into your textbook, page number 25, you can see a picture there, right? So it is a very destructive picture, isn't it? Because trees are blown away, you can see a car floating in the water, you can see even houses floating on the water, isn't it? So that is the destructive nature of a tsunami. And if you go into your page 26, there, in the picture, you can see a man standing on the ruins of his house, right? So maybe after the tsunami occurred on 26 December 2004, he must have come back to his house. So all he can see is destruction and brokenness, isn't it? So you can imagine the condition. Suppose, if something bad happens, you come back and your house is no more, then where will you live? Isn't it? So psychologically, mentally also, it is very disturbing, and it is very sad also, isn't it? So maybe the man must have lost his other family members, and he has to start his life all over again because of the tsunami, isn't it? And when you go to the next page, that is page number 27, you can see the picture of Tillie Smith, the girl that we were talking about in part 2. So this is the picture of 10-year-old Tillie Smith, and she was the one who saved so many lives in Thailand, right? So this is her. And then for page number 29, we've already discussed the picture, isn't it? Yes, so when you look into the picture and as you're studying your lesson, you can tell more about this boy, more about the things that are going on around him. And then as you're describing about this picture, you will understand the things that, the harmful effects that a tsunami can do, okay? So today we have learned about the things, the destruction that is caused by a tsunami, okay? So we learned that the lesson is divided into 3 parts, and then from different places we got to hear so many stories about people, who were, really affected by the tsunami, isn't it? And then we also understood how strong the 6th sense of animals are, isn't it? So I want you all to read your textbook every now and then I want you all to keep in touch with your textbook, even though normal classes are not going on. So that is how you can be in touch with your lessons. Thank you so much.